Hey there, and welcome to the UkeStuff channel, and welcome to this full UkeGuide review of this instrument. This is the Lanikai LKS-TEU. It is a tenor scale UkeSB model, which means that it has a adapter, Fishman pickup, that plugs right into, through a USB cable, your computer or your iPad or whatever for recording. And I bought this early on in 2016 when I was playing and have used it in a lot of projects. So yeah, it's not available anymore. So if you want one of these, you can find them used from time to time. There might even be one or two new ones that didn't sell because, quite honestly, it's a little quirky. Quirky in my sort of style. So I'm a tech person. So, having the USB logo on a ukulele, for a lot of people be like, no, but for me, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. And again, otherwise, it's a pretty beautiful ukulele as it goes and sounding. That all said, if you heard the demo at the beginning, I'm not used to really the tension of tenor strings, and the tension is high on this one for me. And also the tenor spacing. I'm not used to playing baritone and tenor that much. I play mainly concerts and then some sopranos. So yeah, every now and then I'm not holding down a string the way that I ought to be on a tenor or a baritone instrument. And I know that Lanikai made many variations of this. They have a mahogany version. I think there's a baritone out there. I know there's soprano. They don't all have Spruce and the Acacia. At the time, Lanikai, which, by the way, Lanikai has completely redone their line since, I think, NAMM of 2017. They made an announcement, and really, all the Lanikais today don't match anything to what they did before 2017. I mean, your logo is the same. And I've been trying to work out a way to review some Lanikais that are the new models, and that hasn't worked out for me yet. I would love to do that, though, because Lanikai has been around for a long time. In fact, the owner and president of Kala was originally the person that ran Lanikai years ago, and then after running Lanikai for a while, decided to start his own business more than 15 years ago, I think 16 or 17 years ago. And now Kala is, an established brand across the world as well. So Lanikai was there before that. So yeah, so when I started playing, it was before this shift of Lanikai and what it made. And this was a couple years old, but not really an old model yet. And of course, it appealed to me with all the technology things that I do. And I've used this for a number of projects at school and so forth. So it's an instrument that I'm very fond of, a tenor one. And I actually have another surprise announcement coming in the near future about a model similar to this. So what we're going to do in this full UkeGuide review is, first of all, we're going to look at some subjective things, then we'll look at specifications for the instrument, and then I will summarize it and give it a UkeGuide rating, even as a legacy instrument. Why? Because somewhere down the road, somebody's going to buy one of these and say, I wonder what this is all about, and they can someday see this video and then learn more about this instrument. So let's begin with subjective issues. Price. When this came out, it was $499. That's in 2014 dollars. That's a lot at the time. Remember that a full koa ukulele at that time probably was around $800 to $900 at the most. So like a full koa, a kamaka, for example, would be under $1,000 at that time. So not today, but at the time. So this was originally advertised as a koa model, and certain dealers had issues with that. In fact, there used to be a review from the ukulele site where Andrew at the ukulele site talked about the fact that that's really not right. It's pretty, it's acacia, but it's not koa. What is koa? Koa is a type of acacia tree that's only grown in Hawaii. So if you grow koa anywhere else, it's not koa. And there is acacia throughout the world. It's even in the Bible, in the Old Testament, quite frequently. The acacia is everywhere. So it makes a beautiful tone wood. It tends to be a little darker to me than koa, but it's a nice combination. It's a pretty grain. they did a nice job with it, with the gloss finish and all. So anyway, $4.99 though at the time. And yeah, you were dealing with a technological sort of marvel in the ukulele world because nobody else moved to this sort of USB pickup that you could, and you can also, by the way, plug into an external jack as well. But the USB pickup there has been really useful for me in the projects that I do. So $4.99, you were paying for the technology, you were paying a little bit for the wood because it's all solid wood, even though it's not koa, it's still solid acacia, solid spruce, and again, kind of a top of the line of the Lanikai line at the time. So it's probably overpriced and techy, and I don't think it really found a good audience. And they made again several versions of it, but it didn't really, I think, sell that well. So I'm not sure even how many of these are really out there. I'm just glad to actually have bought one when I did. Now, in terms of value, well, you didn't get anything with it, right? At the time, you didn't get a gig bag. I think all the Lanikais come with a gig bag today. You didn't get strap buttons. I added those myself. All you got was ukulele for that price at that time. The idea of a bundle really didn't quite exist yet in the marketplace. Very expensive ukulele. Now, that all said, for that $4.99, it was still a pretty good value because you're getting a solid top instrument with the pickup, with the technology piece. Also has a built-in tuner on the side, I should say, and a high-end Lanikai. So it wasn't a terrible value. The value exceeded the price, but it still was probably overpriced as it went, especially as demand was not there for the instrument. Now, in terms of build quality, on the outside, it was pretty well done. This one, I think, was a reject when I bought it because there are some spots where the binding or the purfling is, in fact, the purfling again is the binding is the black line here, and then you have purfling, you have abalone purfling, and then you have another thin black line of purfling. There are a couple points in the purfling here where there's like a like minuscule jagged edge, and it was reduced in price because of that. But other than that, fret ends have always been good. You've got the really large, almost like guitar-like fret markers on the front. The positioning is unique with one on the first fret. And so they did a really pretty decent job with the gloss. You know, they put the joint for the neck appears way up there. And of course, there's one in the heel. There are two pieces on the back. There are two pieces on the front, but they did a nice job of putting that all together on the outside. So on the exterior, just a minimal flaw in that top, which is part of the reason why I got it at a discounted cost. But let's take a look at the inside. All right, let's take a look at the inside of the Lanikai UkeSB, the LKS-TEU. This is the solid spruce and acacia ukulele. All right, so we're going inside and taking a look at what we've got here. You can see the electronics. There's the output jack right there along with the USB connection. So you have both the output jack and the USB connection. Then you can see the construction here. It's actually made pretty well. There's very little glue spill. You can see the tail block down there. If I reach up, see a little bit of glue there, but you can see where the pickup comes through. You can see the bridge there. You can see the support on the solid spruce soundboard. You can see the acacia on the sides here and some of the bracing on the bottom. There's a little bit of extra glue right over there. All right, let's take a look at the upper bout of the instrument. All right, as we look at the upper bout, you can see the brace that runs along the bottom, around the entire side there. You can see some of the electronics over here on that side, and you can see the notch kerfing, the very traditional build. And then as we scroll over to the other side over here, you can see what that looks like too. Lots of bracing there to support that solid top. And of course, you can see the neck block right in the front of this video. And that's a quick look at the inside of the Lanikai UkeSB, the LKS-TEU. All right, we're back. So as you can see, overall, pretty solid build. Quality is decent on this. You're probably getting what you paid for at the time. Now, in terms of appearance, you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it, and it's all going to be based upon that. If it didn't have that little USB symbol inlay right there, I think people would probably like it more, and these front fretboard markers may not be everybody's cup of tea either. I kind of like it. So other than that, you get really pretty Acacia at a time when Acacia was not that common. And you get the sound hole rosette right there that it has abalone and the other purfling on it. You get binding, you get abalone around the edge, which isn't overkill. And you get, of course, the purfling as well. You get the binding there. You get the stripe on the back with the binding and on the bottom. So overall, it's really an attractive ukulele with a lot of different things. But again, that USB is going to decide whether you think it's gaudy or whether it's good. It's kind of going to be up to your personal preferences there. Now, in terms of availability, well, this one isn't made anymore. There are a couple that will occasionally pop up used, and maybe you'll find a new one at some store where it just hasn't sold because people are kind of surprised by that. But if you have a workflow where you need to record into a phone or you need to record into a tablet or a computer and you don't want to deal with the extra equipment that you need to do that, which again, to sort of get a USB interface, generally you're probably looking at $100 or a little more to get into one. If you don't want to spend that kind of money on your ukulele, this is a good way to go, especially if you can find one used at a good price. Now, in terms of playability, I do know that the action was high when I bought this, and I bought this one from something like Butler Music or something when I originally bought it. They don't do setups when you buy an instrument from them. They just drop ship them. So whatever they have, they send to you. But this one, I did adjust the action. So when you see the action report later, it's a meaningless point. My guess is that if you buy one of these, you're going to have it set up if you don't know how to do it yourself. The nut width is actually close to 38 millimeters with pretty decent string spacing. So there's no complaints there, and it is a more shallow neck than a lot of the C-shaped instruments that are out there. Now, my negative here is that, again, not playing a lot of tenors, and when I use this for a project, I'm not used to that string tension. It's less on a concert, less on a soprano. I suppose you can buy higher tension strings, but I generally don't experience that. So even though these are Martin 620 strings, fluorocarbon, the big brother of this Martin M600s that I use on most of my instruments, I find it much harder to play. The tension is greater. And I think it's pretty common for a tenor, but just I'm not used to it. So I make more mistakes when I'm playing this instrument. Now, in terms of sound quality, it is a really bright instrument. Bright and sparkly and loud, but it is balanced. It is a heavy ukulele, so, I think all the electronics and so forth in there add to that. And it is a little heavy built, but that doesn't seem to hamper its sound or its sustain very much. It loves to ring, and it loves to ring with harmonics and so forth. So it's a really lovely sound. I have noticed that if you're plugging into other things, in particular with the USB adapter, not all USB cables work. It's like a micro USB that goes, into your computer and so forth. Not all of them work with it. So you have to look to find a USB cable that works. Generally, the USB cables that sort of work with phones, like not for charging, but for like a data swap between a phone, that actually generally works in these. And I've had that happen with other instruments as well, such as MIDI keyboards and so forth, where just any old USB cable didn't work, even if it had the right tip. You had to kind of get another cable and find it. So you might have to search. If it doesn't come with a cable, you might have to search for a little while to find a cable that will work with it and then transmit data to your device. So yeah, it's a very bright sound with lots of overtone and sustain, as long as you are pressing down the notes to make that allow it to ring. One of the things I do in these videos is to let you see what I'm hearing. So I use the app Tonal Energy Tuner to play the C chord, and I let you see what's happening with the harmonic series as I play. So here we go. One of the things that I'm noticing is that the app isn't picking up the overtones that are continuing to ring at a higher frequency even than the bass frequency that you hear sustaining and see sustaining on the app. So it's a really good full sound with a lot of bright, sparkly overtones, which appeals to me. That's my type of instrument. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective issues, let's talk about the specifications of the instrument. It is a tenor scale instrument, and the actual scale length from nut to saddle is 17 inches. There are 19 frets with 14 to the body. There are side position markers at a time when not all companies did that, and the body style is a traditional double bout ukulele. The soundboard is solid spruce. The back and sides are Acacia, not koa, if you see any of the old reviews or old advertising for this instrument. The fretboard is rosewood. It is a flat fretboard. It is not radius. And the bridge, rather large wide bridge, is rosewood as well. And it is a tie bar bridge. There are 2 screws that are holding it in as well. In addition, the nut and saddle appear to be bone, and the saddle is not compensated. The finish is a gloss that seems to be very well done. I don't see any pooling on it at all, so very well done there. The overall length is 26 inches, and it weighs 1 pound 9.6 ounces, which is getting to be a heavier instrument, but it has a lot of electronics in it as well. The tuner types are gold open geared tuners. They look very attractive. Some early Lanikais at the time had these really ginormous buttons. This was a high-end one, so they put on some really nice looking tuners. When we talk about action, I think you're going to need to have yours set up if you find one used that hasn't been set up. I have adjusted it to the action is at 0.5 millimeters at the 1st fret, and it's at 2.5 millimeters at the 12th fret. You would probably have to adjust yours. The nut width is 37.32 millimeters, so going towards 38 millimeters. The string spacing is pretty wide, 9.41 millimeters between each string at the 1st fret. It's 31.08 millimeters G to A, so nice and roomy. And it's a very flat shaped neck, very comfortable neck. I always measure the depth of the neck at the 3rd fret. It's 19.36 millimeters from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck on this instrument. So that's a really shallow neck with a nice, 38 millimeter width. Very comfortable to play. I'm just not a big fan of the string tension. All right, now that we've talked about the specifications, let's summarize this instrument. I came into ukuleles as a tech person. In fact, I run techandmusiced.com. I haven't posted there a lot because most of my efforts have been in ukulele and using technology to create ukulele resources, right? I mean, that's what I do. So the idea of a ukulele that attached directly to my computer or to my iPad at the time was really a great idea, and I've used it a lot. But then I started looking for this instrument. It was still available at the time. I think old stock, but still available at the time. And this one I think was sold and discounted as a factory second, just because, again, a little tiny finish flaw in the soundboard of the instrument. But otherwise, it's perfect. I mean, in every other way. So that's the kind of factory second that you really, really want, right? So I have used this for a lot of recordings and a lot of things. The real only negative for me really has been the string tension. And again, I'm just not used to it. I play concerts and sopranos all the time. If I played it more, I'd probably be fine. But it is kind of a firm press, even with these Martin M620 strings that are on it. Now, in 2017, Lanikai revamped their entire line. And like I said, I'd love to review some of theirs at some point. So you can no longer buy this Fishman package that, again, included a tuner. You can adjust your volume and your treble and your bass and your overall volume, but then you can either patch it out as an amplified ukulele, or you can patch it out through the little USB connector there and plug right into an iPad. By the way, if you use an iPad, you're going to need an adapter that will either go, depending on which generation iPad you have, either the Lightning adapter, or if you're going to use your phone, the Lightning adapter to USB, or if you have a newer iPad, you're going to need a USB-C to USB adapter to be able to plug those instruments together. So in conclusion, it's a beautiful ukulele that has the techiness of it. That part you might not like, but if you can imagine the rest of it, it's really a pretty ukulele. If you don't see that, perhaps, if you don't like that. And it's really functional in terms of having a good sound, and then having that UkeSB feature for me has been a lifesaver. So if you're looking for something that can do that, there are different versions of this that are out there. They all kind of share the same look up here with these sort of guitar fretboard markers and then the USB logo. But otherwise, if you're looking to get into recording your ukulele without having to use a lot of other equipment, it might be a great way to go. And unfortunately, they're not available anymore, but they do pop up used from time to time. So if I was to rate this, what rating would I give it? And I've got to be sensitive to knowing that it wasn't a popular model and it really didn't sell that great. Not for its features, but just because people didn't use it for what it was created for. So knowing that, and knowing kind of the high price point at the time and the fact that it didn't come with anything else, all you got was the ukulele at that $500 price point, really the price would bring it down to a 4.0. And if it was a little bit, if the tension was a little bit lower, I think, and I could try with other strings and so forth, I might be tempted to make it a 4.5. But a 4.0 is a pretty fair rating for any instrument. It says, check it out. If you like it, it's definitely worth buying. And this one would be right up there with me for that. All right, so thanks again for joining me for this full UkeGuide review of this instrument, the Lanikai LKS-TEU, which again is a tenor scale UkeSB model with solid spruce top and solid acacia back and sides. Again, with that really cool ability to connect directly to a computer or an iPad. All right, thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.